Well, how y'all doing? Lord have mercy, what a blessing. I'm Dan. I want to welcome everyone to my home in the sticks in the Hits Farm. Wherever you are at in the world, I hope you're having a great weekend and everything's good with you. Before we get started on today's video, if you are new to the channel, I want to welcome you. And if you returning just to see what old Dan's got going on over here, I just have enough thank you for coming back. But what I want to share with you and y'all today, we're going to talk about some hand loading stuff, specifically chasing numbers. So let's get after it. Dan, chasing what? Well, long story short, I have a good friend of mine that lives in another state. He hunts in Mississippi, and when he comes down, he always makes it a point to come see me at work, and we talk about just various hunting things. What he did tell me this go around is he's starting to get into hand loading his own rifle ammunition. And he's been doing it probably for a couple of years now. But his biggest question that he had for me was, Dan, how come the lengths of my loaded ammunition are varying? And when I say the length, I'm talking about cartridge overall length, or COAL, as it's normally termed. So I started talking to him about it, and I said, you know what? Saying it and explaining it is one thing, but to actually do it and use equipment to show what I'm talking about is even better. I'm going to turn you around and we're going to talk about chasing numbers. Okay, as hand loaders, we have tons of equipment that we use to produce our own ammunition. What you're looking at right here is a Forester micrometer seating die. The only thing that this guy does is seat projectiles into a case. That's all it does. As we're seating our projectile into the case using our seating die, run it in, run it down. We measure the cartridge overall length using a set of micrometers, and we checked to see if this case is the length that we wanted, or we check to see if this case is the length that a data book says. If it's not, we make small adjustments to our seating die to establish that correct cartridge overall length. Now here is where chasing the numbers comes into play. This is just a factory 6.5 Grendel round that I'm using for illustration purposes. Zero out our calipers, and we are going to check what the cartridge overall length is. It is 2254 or 2.254 inches. We'll grab another round, again factory. We'll measure it. It is 2246 or 2.246 inches. Do you see the difference? 2.254, 2.248. Now, I've done this several times. I know a lot of folks that have done it. And what you do is you start chasing the numbers. Let's just say you want your cartridge overall length to be 2.260. So you just use a set of calipers. You measured this guy, you measured this round right here, and you were 4 thousandths long. So what you do is you come up here to your micrometer or your seating die, and you start spinning it off and checking again. Putting that round back in there, run it up, and you measure it till this guy is 2.260. And then you commence to seating all of your projectiles. Every couple of rounds, you may even just double check to see if your rounds are all the same length. And what you will see is they're not. And I'm going to show you or explain to you why it's not. What I have here is a Hornady ELD match projectile that I really like to use. And we're going to talk about something called an ogive. And we're not going to get too technical into this. We're not going to talk about tangent ogive or secant ogive. We're just going to be plain Jane ogive. Dan, what is an ogive? This point from the bearing surface to where the projectile starts to slant down to data point. It's a reliable data point. So we get your bearing surface And once that projectile starts slanting down to the tip or me-plat or met-plat, that's the ogive. Now what a lot of folks don't realize is each one of these tips are produced in mass quantities. All of these tips, if your projectile actually has a tip, they're all going to be different. Here's a Sierra Match King, and this is a hollow point bow tail. All of these tips are going to be different. And that is the reason why you start chasing numbers. These tips on met plats can be off by, and when I say chasing those numbers, chasing these numbers on this micrometer. Now for illustration purposes, what I have in this case is these rounds that are up here are all of my custom hand loads, and these down here I use for cider and spoiler rounds. I'm gonna use a few of these, and I'm gonna use some of my hand loads up here to illustrate what I'm talking about in a piece of equipment that I think everybody should start using, or everybody should use, to get consistent seating and consistent ammo. So let me show you that. And what I have here is a Hornady comparator gauge, if you will, and this is what I use to get the length of all of my loaded ammunition consistent. And what this piece of equipment does is it measures from the base of the loaded case to the ogive. Now we have to remember the ogive is a consistent area on this projectile. It's going to be true 99.9% of the time. We're going to turn our micrometer on, we'll zero it out, and we are going to measure base to ogive. Okay, the base to ogive reading for my personal hand loaded ammunition that I loaded myself is 1.6785. But we'll call it 1678. Pull out another piece. 1678. There's another piece. 1678. So what that's telling me is all three of these rounds are stupid consistent seating wise. I seated all of these guys pretty much to the same depth, and that's what I'm looking for. Then on the other hand, we'll zero out our calipers. Just going to flip this guy over. We're going to take a reading. 2225. And this is the same three rounds that I just measured it using the comparator. 2206. 2227. So now I think everybody should understand now why I use a comparator to check the seating depths of all of my hand loaded ammunition, and why getting a reading from base to ogive is better than using the cartridge overall length method. So brother, if you watch this video, that is what I was trying to explain to you as far as cartridge overall length, or COAL, versus measuring base to ogive of the projectile on your round. Using the Hornady comparator and measuring base to ogive is a lot more accurate and consistent than measuring cartridge overall length. And a lot of people like to measure a cartridge overall length, and that's fine. If it's working for you, it's working for you. But when you see that your groups are starting to opening up, or you're getting some flyers, yeah, you might want to check the seating depth and stop chasing the numbers on your seating die. Well, all right, that's what I wanted to share with you and y'all today. Lord of mercy, it's how hand loaders can get sucked into chasing numbers. Stop using that cartridge overall length and move to base to ogive readings, and I guarantee you, your ammunition, your seating of your projectiles and your ammunition will be extremely consistent. So again, I hope everybody's having a show enough good weekend, and I hope you're staying safe amid this crisis that's still going on. If you like this video, go and give it a thumbs up, they help. If you haven't subscribed to the Home of Six channel, Lord of mercy, y'all need to come over and give old Dan a look, because I'm always doing stuff like talking about projectile ogives or bullet ogives. With that being said, you know it's coming. Dan Raff is show enough. Always gonna say it. Don't let nobody dull your shine. And I mean nobody. You sure enough get your shine on, get your grow on, be you, it's important. And Dan will see you and y'all in the next video.